good news, everybody.
Yes, great news.
I guess it's great news. I'm happy about it. So, we've talked about it. I don't think I've actually brought up the news on here, but we talked about my story, Dead Men Don't Scream, which I don't even know if I've ever actually named on here. But it's my 15,000 word super long story I wrote a while ago. Had nowhere to submit it. I'm pretty sure we discussed I looked for different places to submit it and stuff. So I submitted that story to Dragon Soul Press. They have an anthology coming out called Beautiful Darkness, Volume 3. And I submitted to them only. Well, one, they seem like they claim to be a traditional publisher, so that's cool to have under my belt. But they accepted stories up to 15,000 words for that collection. Not all their anthologies go that long, but this one, they seem to want longer stories. And they actually changed the theme of the anthology because before it was like dark places or something, which I think my story still would have kind of fit for, but it works better for this one. So I submitted to them they ended their submission period, I think the end of July. And I submitted, I think the middle of July, a couple weeks before it was over.
Yeah.
And they respond within 7 days of the closure of the submission. So I heard back very quickly.
Yeah, it didn't say it didn't take long for you to get a response, which is always nice.
Did not have to wait forever, which is nice because they put those calls out a year ahead of time. So if you submitted now, you would have to wait a year, if it was for, for anthology. Because again, you don't hear back until after the closing of the call. So I got accepted. And I signed the contract. I went through the paperwork just to make sure everything's on the up and up. And they gave me the go-ahead to announce it and stuff. They want you to announce it. A lot of publishers I go through, it's real iffy. Do I say anything? Am I allowed to say I got accepted? Right. Months go by, and then they're like, okay, you could say it. No, these guys, they're just do it.
Now.
Announce it, because we're a traditional publisher. It's coming out for sure, and it's coming out October 30th.
Now, when they say, traditional publisher, what does,
No. I don't know. They just say on their website, a traditional publisher. I guess that means they stick to their deadlines and they have a team. Maybe they're sold in stores. I really don't know what constitutes that, other than the fact that maybe it's a team of people. There's a specific editor for this anthology series. So I think it's J.E. Feldman or something along those lines. I was a little wary on submitting to this one just because the payment's a little strange. That's the only thing I thought was a little strange was the payment system, which is royalties, which instead of a flat rate, I'll buy your story and here's money and now you're in it, you get royalties. And I remember I talked about in the past, one of my goals was to get something with royalties.
Yeah.
So that's another one off the bucket list. So I'm excited for that. But the only thing is, it's not a month-to-month royalty. They collect each month for a year. And at the end of the year, after the publishing date, you get just a lump sum.
Yeah.
And then after that, your royalties, which is 30% or something, which I think is high, but that goes to a charity they pick. So you only get a year's worth of payment. Now, if the book sold 100 million copies,
that'd be good.
You're getting a huge chunk of change. If it sells 5 copies, then you're the one who bought 3 of them.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any money. So it's a roll of
But neither are those sick kids in that charity either.
Yeah. So it's a roll of the dice, but it fosters more promotion from the authors inside, they're gonna do, because a lot of anthologies I've been in, it's amazing how many authors don't even fucking mention it.
Yeah,
it's I got in this anthology, and that's all they say. They don't promote it, they don't put videos out for it. It's I'm in it, I don't care if it sells. Why? I want to fucking sell. I want everything I'm in to sell gangbusters.
Yeah, because then you can have that track record if you're trying to get poached. Be look, I'm not saying it's because of me. But every one of these anthologies I've been in
sold gangbusters.
Yeah,
Yeah, so even if I didn't get royalties, I would want this one to sell like a motherfucker. So I'm going to do a lot of promotion stuff for that. They're going to send me a promo packet at the end of this month or next month. Yeah, so I can start doing that stuff. I guess it would be the end of this month. I didn't get any edits or anything for my story. I don't know how that goes with it, because every publisher's different. I'm hoping they just send me the edits and don't just,
do it.
It's in the contract, I think they do. Because I've worked with some publishers that just go ahead and just make small edit. They wouldn't change any part of your story, but every once in a while, even a word choice, they might just, they could be this word. No, I'm the author. You fucking tell me.
My words.
Yeah, I'll tell you if it should be changed. Let me know. But if you want to do just basic typos, fine, go ahead. But So that's coming out October 30th. I'm very excited for that because I didn't even plan for that to happen, but I got a Halloween book.
There you go.
Because you know how many times I've discussed on here, I wish I fucking get a book for Halloween. It's my favorite month. I would love for that I have something exciting to cap off the end of the year. And hopefully, because I do get author copies I can buy for like a big discount. I think next month I get a link for that. Hopefully I can get those ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, have them out before the publishing date, so we could do like something on the podcast for it. Give you yours, you could read it, we could cover it, and have a big party, and everybody can get drunk.
I feel almost bad about that because, like you said, your royalties come from the sales. So it's like if you buy a whole bunch of at a discount, like. And give it to the people that are, give it to all the people that know you that would probably get it. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like I should almost just buy it because then that's good chance of you getting a better.
Well, I mean, my Dark Home Publishing book, people paid me for it. Most people.
Well,
some people said they were going to give me money, just not you, but some people said they were going to give me money. Took the book, never gave me the $10 for the book. Still waiting on the $10, Bryce. But his book is all I'm saying. I pre-ordered it. And his was fucking $20, and it's only 32 pages. My book is big.
Your story's almost that long.
It might actually be. No, my story's longer. My story in here is 37 pages.
Oh, wow.
His is 32 pages, I believe. Poetry collection. And obviously, it's going to be shorter, but I'm just saying dollar for dollar.
Yeah. And it has all the... Because you said
I loved all the stories in there. Really good, yeah. It's a very good collection. As of now, this is what I'm most proud of being in. This is a very professional, nice book.
It is. It's good to look at. The formatting. Like I hadn't had a chance to read anything other than your story. I do want to check some stuff out, especially after
I told you that one story at the end was really good too. That's Ethereal Nightmares, an anthology of twisted tales.
Hopefully they do more stuff.
I think she was shopping around a second book idea or open calls or something, but I haven't seen. I know she was like posting about it, but she does Carrie, the publisher, she does different things for that now. But she was doing like a micro story collection, I think. Before because I would like to submit to the Ethereal Nightmares. I mean, honestly, if she took even more work, because her ends at 10,000 words, so if she did 15,000, I would just submit, be like, hey. I'll wait and submit my story to you.
Yeah.
Not that the Dragon Soul Press isn't a good press. I mean, I'm very excited to get in that. That seems like a cool one. And that's like a long book too. I think the last volume was 400 something pages.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool that I could get like a big fat book I'm in. And that my story is going to be what, like 50 pages? It's got to be a lot.
Be a big chunk of it.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that. That's when that comes out, that's going to be the story I'm most proud of. Because I probably put the most work into editing that, like basically rewriting it.
Mm-hmm. You did. You were working on that for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I want to say I did a fabulous job. You know what? This is going to be very arrogant. When I submitted that story, I only submitted it to the one publication, and I shopped around like, okay, maybe I could find some backups in case they don't take it. And then I said to myself, like a dickhead, no, they're taking it because this is a good fucking story. They're taking it, and they did.
They took it hard.
I have not been that confident about any story I've submitted up till now. That was the only one I just, in my head, was like, no, they're taking it. Most places I submit to go, they're going to fucking hate it. They're going to hate me. Though I am fairly certain, because I submitted to Siren's Call, the Halloween issue, I think I'll get accepted just on the merit of the writing.
Yeah.
Because it's like a flash fiction, so it's short anyway. And they seem to be, as long as the writing's good, they seem to be
good with taking
higher acceptance rate. Of course, I could be wrong. I could just have got lucky last time. But anyway, that's the news. We have an episode about poetry. That's why I'm kind of putting off just fucking rambling.
Just keep on going on. It's time to talk about the poetry.
No longer the cold open unless we got to talk about poetry. No, we're going to talk about at least some interesting poetry. Speculative poetry.
There was such a thing.
Yeah, so I didn't need. I suspected.
Well, I was talking about interesting poetry.
Oh, we'll discuss. Maybe we'll find out if it's interesting after this break. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, I'm going to do a lot of that. Never stop talking, just keep breathing. With me today, Spencer, the Spokane Ship Sinker Church.
Sinking ships?
Yeah.
Battleships? Or just regular ships?
Any ship. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. You're the white whale of the ocean. You can just sink any fucking thing you want.
Yes.
I was going to give you a worse name, as I told you off air, but I'm not going to even bring it up because it was graphic.
Can't do it.
Today we are discussing speculative poetry.
Sure.
Do you know it's the real thing?
Sure.
Poetry could be difficult, Spencer.
No, you don't say.
It's like battling a giant squid. Overwhelming. Sorry, that's what this article says. This is from, reactormag.com.
Ooh.
I thought that said real... I thought they said real rectum.
Who?
I was like, what does that mean? No, reactor.
Who's out here with their fake rectums?
Yeah. So we're not going to get into all the ins and outs of poetry because that's not going to work. But we will discuss speculative poetry. Now, when I hear that term, I assume horror poetry, so basically genre poetry.
Okay.
Which we've talked about a little bit before, I think just off air actually, of if there was a form of poetry you'd like, it'd probably be that.
Yeah.
Now, you recently just read The Raven for our October poem.
Yes.
How did you feel about The Raven? Because that would be more of a horror poem, I would say, or closer to it.
Or I would even,
poem.
Yeah, I would even say kind of like even like suspense.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of just like
build up.
Yeah, build up and tension and stuff like that in it. But yeah, no, I enjoyed reading it.
So it's not poetry you dislike. It is poetry.
Yeah.
Ooh,
well, yeah, because that's very like because The Raven it had a rhythm and a way it told things, but it also fit within like how the story is being told. Like it was kind of like with a purpose and stuff. They didn't necessarily rhyme, but words flowed together nicely in a good pattern. Like,
well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there with story.
Yeah,
The Raven is a story.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a poem, but like most of Poe's poetry, it's a story.
Yeah,
a lot of poetry, especially modern poetry, there isn't a story. It's either about me. Or it's just like, hey, here's a slice of my life, and it's just a random incident or a feeling or something like
random gobbledygook.
Yeah, just some postmodern bullshit where it's just fucking somebody threw a bunch of letters on a page and then you make up the words.
Well, we've talked about before how like there's been like obviously on Poe's time there were novels and stuff like that, but they probably still weren't as popular. I would think quite yet. It's even like going back to whenever we fucking read the Divine Comedy for no reason. Like, we would have thought like that would.
Are we ever gonna cover that fucking book?
I don't know.
September.
It's okay. That I think that would be better if like somebody took the time and just changed it from poems into just a regular kind of written, novel, like kind of font, not font, but like setup, like you know what I mean?
Right.
I think I would enjoy it, but it was weird. It didn't, but yeah, I think whenever there's an actual story that's involved, and like I said, that's a lot of old poetry have that story because that was the only way you told stories back then. Would do it with poems,
Yeah, it was easier to memorize.
Yeah. Or even like Shakespeare,
Yeah.
and some other old guys. Your Homers and and the Iliad and.
I like hearing you just say the only things you can remember.
Yeah, Odysseus and
okay, he was in the Odyssey.
Yeah.
So this article, which was written by Diane Callahan, she goes on a pretty good tear about like poetry. You don't have to like all poetry, differences of poetry and stuff like that. But I just mainly wanted to actually get to the examples.
Yeah.
As far as seeking out speculative poetry, I can't say I have.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a lot of poetry collections, but almost all the ones I've read are what you consider literature, I guess. I don't know if that's the proper term for poetry, but, like your Dylan Thomas, Langston Hughes.
And do you like those?
Yeah, I like them, but again, that's not considered modern poetry. I mean, it is, but it's not what's contemporary now. So if
it's like it's modern in a wider sense, but not in a
like a Seamus Heaney, I think that's still considered
it
old.
could be like a classic, like modern classic,
kinda. Well, like okay, so Bryce, he likes a guy who's active now. I think he's a buddy of his now, George Bilgier. He has a poetry collection I read, and it was all right. But his poetry wasn't like the long meandering, I don't know what the fuck's happening kind of poetry. Yeah. But then if you go into some old stuff, there's some collections I've read that I don't like. Like I don't really like Robert Frost, and he's one of the most popular poems. For me, it's like a fine line. I need the language to be like really interesting, but I also need to understand what's happening.
And so do you feel like poetry kind of falls into a trap of like how like in a novel or short story or whatever, you like, yes, the language and how you do that is the point, but you can get away with kind of being like very straightforward with the story and it's still being good and people being interesting. But if you did that with a poem, it'd be like people wouldn't care, you'd think, or at least like the hoity-toity ones wouldn't be like, oh, he's not using these certain things.
It's not obscure enough for my liking. The main thing is
I understood every word he used.
Yeah, well, they don't even want you to. Yeah, they don't want that. They don't want you to understand anything. It's just a lot of it's just, I think, fucking word vomit. But going back to Diane Callahan, this is leading up to one of the excerpts. So, one of the first poetry collections I truly enjoyed was the Pulitzer Prize-winning Life on Mars by Tracy K. Smith, an ode to the universe, David Bowie, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Even though much of it was nonsensical to me at first, it was delicious nonsense, with honeyed phrases and tender images that I chewed on for days, especially the opening lines of Don't You Wonder Sometimes. Before I read that, I will say I've enjoyed quite a few poems that I didn't understand at all because of that honeyed language. Usually it's the phrasing, and when I read through a part of this earlier, a couple days ago when I found this article, I remember just one of them. I was like, Spencer's really going to like that line, even if he doesn't know what the poem's about. So we'll get there. But this is the opening lines to Don't You Wonder Sometimes. After dark, stars glisten like ice, in the distance they span, hides something elemental, not God exactly, more like some thin-hipped, glittering Bowie being, a star man, or cosmic ace hovering, swaying, aching to make us see. That is a problem I have with modern poetry, too, is I never really know how to read it.
Yeah.
Because the way that would read, it's not like, I mean, you could just read it as one big sentence, basically.
Yeah, right.
But it's broken up in these weird spots, so I want to put pauses where I've, like, so it would be more.
Because you think there'd be a pause at the end of each line.
Yeah, so if here's me putting actual pauses. After dark, stars glisten like ice, in the distance they span, hide something elemental, not God exactly, more like some thin-hipped, glittering Bowie being a starman, or cosmic ace hovering, swaying, aching. And that could also be before I make a complete ass of myself, I can't read it like the portrait mode.
Oh yeah,
it's all fucked up. Oh, now I'm reading about nipples. Where the fuck happened?
Ew.
Ooh, big titty bitch.
I think where this episode's going.
I think I lost the sauce, Spencer. I can't find it because I only have. Why is there only a half a line available for scrolling on this mode? Oh, I'm just trying to see in portrait mode if maybe the words are stretched out and there actually isn't those breaks. Because, oh, come on. Where's David Bowie? David, I need you inside of me.
This time, man.
I'm getting there. Maybe I'm not. Nope. More dripping.
Dripping.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a jackass. So the way this is actually read is just single lines, like you said. So, after dark, stars glisten like ice, in the distance they span, hide something elemental, not God exactly, more like some thin-hipped glitter. Okay, you get it. I always forget. That's one thing. That's another reason why I don't fucking like reading shit on my phone, like stories or especially poetry. Because poetry, because I've come across this in poems I've had published where I read it and I'm like, well, that's all fucked up looking. So whoever reads it on their phone is not going to get the rhythm.
Right.
Because the spaces are fucking random now. Like, it's annoying. All right, so let's move on, Spencer.
All right, let's move on.
What did you think about the David Bowie poem? I didn't understand it either. She said she didn't understand it.
So I was never a big Bowie guy, so.
Me neither. Never got the hype. He's like fugly. His teeth. Like, that's what was hot back then, Mick Jagger and David Bowie. Don't aim to understand poetry. Strive
Right.
to experience it. I hear this a lot, and I think Bryce has told me something along the lines of this before, and I don't get it.
No,
How do you
it's-
experience it? Stop it.
Well, especially if you're like writing it.
Yeah. The example here is take a look at this stanza from Almer El Mahatar's.
Costanza?
No, not Costanza.
Oh.
Stanza.
Oh.
Can't stand, Jessica. Can't stand. Take a look at this George Costanza. Fuck you. Take a look at this stanza from Amal El Matar's Reisling's award-winning poem, Peach Creamed Honey, which begs to be spoken aloud. In fact, you can listen to El Matar. Okay, there's a link to the guy reading it, or lady. I don't know. Is Amal a lady or a man? Probably a man. I'm going to say man because I'm a fucking asshole. All right, here's the poem. They say she likes to tease her fruit, bite ripe summer flesh, just to get that drip going. Down, down, sweets her elbow with the slip of it, wears it like perfume. I mean, that's very visual. It's very graphic. I like it.
Yeah. Spicy.
I gotta read like, yeah, baby. Mainstream versus speculative poetry. So speculative poetry can achieve blah, 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 eat some pudding. So
Pudding pop.
many classic poems from days of old could be said to have speculative elements. Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, as we discussed.
Hey.
And Christina Rossetti's Goblin Market. I do like Goblin Market, too. For example, and even the epic poems of Beowulf and the Odyssey, with their tales of hauntings, goblin fruit, dragons, and sirens.
That wasn't a complete idiot.
No, and I need to do a story with the title something with goblin, because I love the word goblin. I just love saying goblin. It's a great word.
Yeah, it is a good word.
Whether you're somebody's goblin on something or you're meaning the actual goblin.
Yeah. Like Green Goblin.
Green Goblin. Any goblin's good in my book. I love goblins. I am a goblin in a different life. Speculative poet Bruce Boston emphasizes the difference in subject matter and the stance of the poet and his distinction between the two forms. Mainstream poetry deals with the rendering and exploration of the here and now, reality as we know it, internal and external. The poet is often present in the poem as an I voice, explicitly or implicitly. Speculative poetry has more to do with imagination, the world of dreams, and the world as it could be. So that's my genre right there, speculative. The stance of the speculative poet is closer to that of a fiction writer. If an I voice appears in a speculative poem, it is usually that of a fictional character rather than the author. So I'm a speculative poetry writer, probably. That's what I prefer. That's the difference mainly. So mainstream, non-speculative is I. I'm a man of culture, and I like to eat Hot Pockets on a winter's eve, and blah, 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 blah. Or you could use the I if it's a fictional character.
Yeah.
I chopped your head off because I'm a crazy goblin man. I like the goblin man better.
Just doing goblin things.
The two forms aren't really a dichotomy so much as they are a spectrum. All right, we get it. So let's keep going. I just want to get to more examples. We're not here to learn.
Yeah, right.
The ocean and love are familiar enough elements in poetry, and they're spotlighted in Fran Wild's "The Sea Never Says It Loves You." I noticed poetry loves having long fucking titles.
Almost as long as the poem.
I've seen ones that are. I'm not even joking. I've seen poems with titles longer than the poem.
Yeah, because the poem can be just a couple lines, right?
And sometimes they are. Usually fucking stupid ones. So The Sea Never Says It Loves You, published in Uncanny Magazine. However, it's in how Wilde presents you as the lover of an uncaring sea that we view the familiar through an unfamiliar prism. So let me read this. And you are bathed in salt spray, wishing you were water, or that the sea would whisper from a shell the name of the first song you danced to, or say the name it gave you before it swallowed you up. Not bad.
No.
I like it.
Easy to follow.
Not fucking mind-numbing bullshit. I like that. Now we got to the one you'll like, but let me see who this is here.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to just keep reading. So this is after that one. What speculative poetry can do that mainstream poetry can't is heighten the experience of the unfamiliar by twisting reality into new shapes. Through that subversion of the real, we can stare into the pool at our own reflections and better understand what we see. Opening my mind to these possibilities revealed the varied powers that speculative poems can wield to imagine, to delight, to ignite, and to converse. To imagine. You'll like this one. A bloodied clutch of crowns, leaf clashed, coin profiles, chinking a child's sing-song, the one pure silence staring like a hacked man's throat into the blade.
Ooh, that is a good one.
That last line, I was like, I don't think Spencer's going to understand that because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But that last line, like a hacked man's throat into the blade.
Well, I even like the beginning part because what I was thinking was like like war between two kings. Like,
yeah, that's what I kind of got too. That's cool, but that's a very cool way to say cut somebody's throat. A hacked man's throat into the blade. What the hell did I just read? Let's find out. That was my first reaction anyway. The second is I want to read this aloud over and over again. These lines from Sonia Taffe's poem Radio Banquo in Strange Horizons seem to present Banquo's death from Shakespeare's Macbeth as a radio broadcast. Okay, so you were right. It's Warring Kings.
Okay.
From Macbeth. As a radio broadcast. The diction filled with allusions to the bard with furious nothing and signal ghosting for me. So that was Nito Skeeto. This next one is from C.S.E. Cooney's Postcards from Mars. In Stone telling the narrator's mother takes a one-way trip to Mars after saving up every penny.
See, that's a poem I think I could get into. Like
some Mars?
Yeah.
Well, let's read it. Sending back monthly postcards. Okay, so this person's mom's on Mars, and she's sending postcards every month to Earth. The narrator pretends her mom is dead instead until she discovers that her mom has disappeared on Mars. Okay, so here is the poem. Ends on a bittersweet note. I study her postcards, search for clues, secrets, whisperings, footprints in the red dust. I finish the jam, wash out the jar, 3 pennies, a dime, and a quarter so far. And here's some poems to delight. This one is from Mary Soon Lee's The Sign of the Dragon. It's an epic fantasy story told through over 300 poems. Ooh. And Lee crafts each poem in a way that allows for a new discovery in how storytelling can be experienced. One poem jumps between snippets of conversations the new king has with his tailor, stable boy, and generals as he prepares for his succession. Another poem is written from the perspective of the king's horses. Battle scenes are painted in that's going to be really hard to read that, or write that rather. Like if you had an epic poem, but it's like, this is going to be from the horses. Like, how would you?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like, how you would do it from the horse's point of view.
Well, here is the example of the poem. Before, an instant earlier, Sung's pulse pounded loud as the wind's wet rush, as the clash of metal on metal, as the screams, the battle drums, while Sung rode beside the king, the horses maneuvering as if they were 1,000 shadows of a single faultless form. See, but that's more like the Odyssey and stuff, where it's not like a rhyming. It's more just like a long, broken up, like, story. Yeah. It doesn't really I mean, it reads up as a poem, I guess, because there's probably rhythm that I'm not getting, but it doesn't necessarily read as a poem to me, you know?
Well, I mean, like we said before, like if like novel writing was a thing back then,
just do that.
That's what those things probably would have been, especially like the Odyssey and stuff like that, because why would you choose to tell it in a poem form when you have this long form?
Yeah, it's because they couldn't write things down.
Yeah.
Tim Pratt's soul-searching in Strange Horizons also plays with form to deliver whimsical surprises. This poem also won the 2005 Rising Award. It opens. On weekends, I help my old neighbor look for a soul. He says he used to be a wizard or a giant. The story varies from telling to telling, and as was the custom for his kind, he puts his soul into an egg, or perhaps a stone, for safekeeping. He hid the egg, or stone, inside a duck, or in the belly of a sheep, or on a tree stump. So it's more, again, that's just like a story. So the speculative poems are more story-based, I think is what we're getting here. Now we're on to the ignite. So these are poems to ignite. All words are fighting words. In her insightful Tor.com article, How to Read Poetry 101, so it was a lady. Amal El Mohtars shares the story of her poet grandfather who was imprisoned in Lebanon for his political views, which forever shaped her view of poetry's purpose. I grew up being taught that poetry is the language of resistance. That's when oppression and injustice exceed our capacity to frame them into words. We still have poetry. So is there an example here? Birthplace by Brandon O'Brien in Uncanny Magazine embodies the idea of I'm seeking to shock my nervous system. Okay?
Nervous system shocked.
Yeah. So here's, he pulls no punches in this O'Brien fella. Pulls no punches, Spencer.
All right.
Should pay attention to my levels. Am I fucking dropping?
Pulling no punches.
I made this land myself. I put dirt in my own mouth and hoped it would mature. You made manure of the bodies of our mothers, asked us to chew the remains. Ooh. The making manure of the bodies of our mothers is a rough one. You kill your mom, like kill people's moms. That's what I'm getting. Man, it just keeps going. Tired of reading.
One of those articles that never end.
Jesus, dude. All right, I'm gonna skip to to converse. This is more to converse. In the titular poem from her collection, Snow White Learns Witchcraft, Theodora Ghost imagines what Snow White's life might be like in old age after she marries the prince and her daughter of her own. So here's an example. I'll walk along the shore collecting shells, read all the books I've never had the time for, and study witchcraft. What should women do when they grow old and useless? Become witches? It's the only role you get to write yourself. Again, that one doesn't really read like a poem to me. Ooh, this is terrible. How do I get... I'm trying to...
Get stuck in an ad or something?
The challenge and inventiveness of Cherise Francis' poem Celestial Mary, Galilean Daughter in Apex magazine comes from how the poem puts itself in conversation with the Bible, focusing on Mary's perspective on a metaphysical level. 2 stanzas appear side by side, making the poem feel like a conversation, followed by a centered stanza. Forward slashes break words into units of sound or meaning, which has a disorienting effect. I don't know how to read this. A here/tick, one with free will to choose, dis/earn/of dogma, divine will/ld power. So if I read that without all that shit, it'd be a here tick, one with free will to choose, discerner of dogma, divine wild power. I don't know why that's good.
Yeah.
I can't even read it. Like, I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
It looks like a link. Like a web link is what it kind of looks like.
So when you submit something like that to a magazine, do you have to explicitly describe, hey, this is what this poem means and how you read it? Because I still, it explains it and I can't read it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like a conversation,
I don't
but
know.
It's fucking
It's like a different language.
No, I'm not a fan of that. The future of speculative poetry. Spencer Church, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's going to be the future of it.
Master poem?
Yeah.
Poet?
I'm fucking stuck on that one. I don't...
That one that you don't know what to make out of?
I get the disorienting effect, but I don't understand what it's fucking supposed to mean. Definitely didn't get anything about Mary in that.
It's not supposed to mean anything, man. That's the thing.
But it's speculative. This is supposed to mean something.
No, man.
Anyway, I think the long sum of our struggles here is that we're just not smart enough for fancy schmancy poetry of that sort.
I guess. That's being smart.
If I am a fan of poetry, it's going to be probably speculative that tells a story in a way I can somewhat understand.
Yeah.
I like the metaphors and the fanciful language. I do not like nonsense. I don't like when a poem challenges me to find this deep meaning that isn't actually there.
Yeah.
I don't want to, interpret the poem a certain way. Like, oh, it's just up to your interpretation. No, I want to know what the fuck it's about.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is this about?
Because that's just lazy otherwise.
Yeah, like, I don't read a fucking story and then I read the ending and I'll go, I better just interpret that to mean whatever I want it to mean. That pisses me off. Those are considered bad endings usually. It's like, oh, it's up for interpretation. Hey, your face is up for punching, fuckface. How about you fucking write a good poem that people can understand? What's wrong with that?
Oh,
Jack?
no.
Cut the malarkey. I'll turn to Joe Biden here. Cut the malarkey, Spencer.
Just don't start smelling kids.
That's creepy, but I'm not gonna deal with that much longer. Now we gonna have the lady in Kamabla. That's what fucking Trump always calls her. Why is that an insult? Like, does he think that's clever that he just keeps calling her Kamabla?
Maybe it's just the
It's a fucking idiot.
Just the purposely mispronounce somebody's name.
The disrespect.
Yeah.
But that's like kindergarten shit. Kamabla.
Well, I mean,
it's not clever at all. It's like, anyway, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, let's not
anymore.
get into that.
No. But yeah, if we're going to be done with old guys, I'm very happy. That's all that we need to know. When it comes to the poetry, I like poetry, but I am not a poetry fan, if that makes sense. I've read quite a bit more than you.
Oh, yeah. Which isn't, I mean.
But the fact that you like The Raven, and when we get off air here, I'm going to pick a couple for you to, maybe read. I think that, because that's what I started as a kid. The first poetry I got into was Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, I'm sure there's poetry that I like. Well, I read Beowulf back in high school, the actual long thing, you know what I mean. But it was more it's a
story.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's stuff like that. If I could wrap my head around Shakespeare, that's when I feel like I'm kind of just too dumb to you know what I mean. Just with the kind of the words and the way he uses them and stuff like that. I think I would have to do an audible or something to you know what I mean. I think I would have to hear it.
Yeah.
Other than trying to read it and be am I reading this right?
Let me see if I could find one of these. Okay, because when we did the Conan stories way back when, there was a lot of poems in there.
Right.
And we never really discussed them, I don't think.
Yeah, because they don't normally be the opening thing.
Yeah.
Well, you did it for your Asher Kang story, too.
Yeah, I had little segments, but I didn't do full poems, just little pieces. But so I think this was from that one, the Phoenix and something or other. It's one of the first ones I think we read. But this is a Robert E. Howard Conan poem, The Road of Kings.
Oh.
So I'm going to read this, and
okay.
Maybe this would be more up your alley. When I was a fighting man, the kettle drums they beat. The people scattered gold dust before my horse's feet. But now I'm a great king. The people hound my track with poison in my wine cup and daggers at my back. Gleaming shell of an outworn lie, fable of right divine. You gained your crowns by heritage, but blood was the price of mine. The throne that I won by blood and sweat, by Crom I will not sell, for promise of valleys filled with gold, or threat of the halls of hell. What do I know of cultured ways, the guilt, the craft, and the lie? I, who was born in a naked land and bred in the open sky. The subtle tongue, the sophist guile, they fail when the broadswords sing. Rush in and die, dogs. I was a man before I was a king.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
I could read many poems. Yeah, that's cool. That's a fucking sword and sorcery story in a poem form. It's badass. I like that shit. See, that's the thing. I grew up reading fucking Poe. I read a lot of stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
So I didn't even realize poetry was lame until it was too late.
And honestly, even without some of the slight rhyming and rhythm of the of how it's written, you wouldn't even that's just a paragraph of a story almost.
Well, we'll end it on this. I'm gonna assume, but I'll leave it up to you. Would you prefer rhyming poetry like that over open-ended poetry that doesn't rhyme? What would make it easier for you to read, that rhythm with the rhyme, or if it was just that same thing, but it wasn't just a long flowing whatever with weird breaks?
Well, no, that definitely because the weird breaks do kind of get to me especially with not reading a whole bunch of poetry to how to interpret that, you know what I mean?
Without the rhyme scheme, that would have the same weird breaks.
Yeah.
Okay. But with the rhyme scheme, you just know to end on that word.
Yeah.
That just helps you cement it in your head. This would just be the end. Well, that one I think actually had punctuation too. That's another one. I actually most people don't like poetry with punctuation. I like it because I know when the fucking break is supposed to be a comma or a period. I get it. But when you just have this open fucking paragraph, there's let me just cut words out and put them. No, I don't fucking know how to read this now.
No, but yeah, definitely more the slight rhyming. Now, if it got more into the rhyming, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But just the slight kind of I can't think of any of them right now, but just the way it's almost kind of like a play on with the words and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll have this discussion again when we do the Raven probably, but that's the way to go for me.
Yeah.
But also that's a fun story that's being told in a cool way. A lot of people didn't like the songs and all that shit in the Lord of the Rings. I loved them.
Yeah.
It made me dance.
And also that does a good thing of doing if that's your introduction poem before your story, that helps set the stage for stuff.
Did I open with something like that in my story or not?
I think you did. Yeah, because I think you had a slight poem in between each break, didn't you?
I don't think it was always a poem. Sometimes they were just like sayings. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for fucking my shit up.
Somebody was done laying underneath the table.
Yeah. No, this one opens up with a made-up quote.
Okay. Maybe that's why you had a lot of quotes.
Well, I had different quotes, but there is one. So here's an old Congolese poem. Not real.
Yeah.
Chapter 7, I guess. To the death, a warrior shall battle, and with his final breath, our world will rattle as the gods require blood. But they're all very short, like little things. This one I got, an Achesian Book of Mourning. The quote is, only light may vanquish the terrible night. I actually got that from Castlevania. That's like the annoying cutscene in Castlevania 2. It always says, oh, the daylight has vanquished the terrible night. Yeah, but I just like, I was kind of inspired by those Conan stories that have like that and the little breaks. Because they do go with like what comes up, about. Anyway, so that was our big episode on poetry. I don't think we did a good job, but who cares?
No.
Nobody cares.
Who cares? Poetry guys care.
Yeah.
And we don't care about poetry, guys.
Oh, no. That was the Drunken Pen Writing Poetry Hour. We are on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at DPW Podcast. That guy snapping over there on his OnlyFans this week is Spencer, the Reading Rainbow.
No.
The Spokane Ship Sinker Church. And you can check out my stuff at calebjamesk.com. My publication history is continually updating.
Always growing.
Yeah, so I will, when I get more information, and maybe as a precursor, I'll actually make a post on my website about the upcoming publication. Usually I just say it was published in, and I'll talk about it and what went into the story and stuff. But maybe this one I'll actually do a precursor like in September, or maybe in a couple weeks, and just be like, hey, got the story coming out, get more. I'm terrible at promo stuff. I don't like social media, and I don't like promoting my own work.
Well, especially if they're going to have like a pre-order, because that's always the best, especially with these smaller publishers. The more pre-orders you can get, the better, for everybody.
It would really help if I get a lot of reviews on this stuff that mention my shit by name.
Yeah.
Because that makes other people, when they look me up, go, oh, this guy might be a somebody.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Building a fan base is hard. But thank you for listening. We'll check you out next week, and stay classy. I was trying to think of some poetry related. I don't know. What the fuck do poets say?
Beatnik.
No.